So let us get started with the ringing of the bell. We gather together. We light the chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The chalice reminds us that we are connected to a much larger religious tradition that stretches out across the past, reaches around the world, and leans us into our shared future. So please come and join with me. The words will appear on the chalice or on the screen. We light the chalice as a reminder that together we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice as we strive for personal and societal transformation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Gordon Clay Bailey. If you don't know me, I am so honored to be here with you today as we discuss some of the, difficult issues around our economic situation. But before we get to those fabulous words, hear these words that come to us from an anonymous source. You can find it in your hymnal if you want to look at it. It's number 434. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know, once again, that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to this universe, to this community, and to one another.
And good morning again. I forgot to introduce myself. For those of you who are new, I am Geoff Pool, P-O-O-L. My pronouns are he, his, and him, and I am your worship associate today. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself, for those who stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this and her peoples. We encourage everyone here to engage in the continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Namwapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. It is important to recognize and appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive place for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community. Here are some suggested learnings. Thacker Pass near Reno was the site of the 1865 massacre of Paiutes committed by the U.S. military. Also, after years of protest, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony filed a suit to stop the progress on the Thacker Pass lithium mine. And also, the Supreme Court has held oral arguments in Arizona versus the Navajo Nation. This case is about the Navajos' right to water in the Colorado River Basin. In coming weeks, research these two cases to educate yourself on the indigenous tribes' claim.
We are sharing our Unitarian Universalist sources from our living tradition this day. We live out our principles with a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from the sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. These are the 6 sources of our denomination and our congregation. We affirm and promote
direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life.
words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love.
Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life.
Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves.
Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit.
Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instructs us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Full disclosure, this congregation does not support the Democratic nor Republican parties. We are open to everyone's insights, and we do not support any political parties, to be fair, right? You all make up your own minds where that's concerned. Fair? All right. Take it away, Geoff.
Wow, that's a hard act to follow.
Well,
we will now ground ourselves in the present and honor those with whom we share this time. I invite you to settle back into your seat. Feel the chair holding you. Imagine the earth holding you. Take in a comfortable breath. Exhale. Let the joy and despair and the frustration and the satisfaction of the week trickle off your shoulders. Let it collect in your hands. Set them down, not ignored, not abandoned. They will join you on the rest of your journey today. Allow yourself to be present in this space. Please find a way to acknowledge those with whom we share this time together. You might smile, perhaps give a hand over your heart, or a small wave. I invite you now to return to the larger circle. If you have someone you would like held up, please add their name to the chat. For today, March 26th, 2023, we hold Dominic Stoll, Lakota Spoolman, Arabelle Chetlow. Do we have any names in the chat?
We do not. Oh, wait. Happy 14th birthday, Akobe.
Happy birthday. May we hold all those displaced or alone, and all these names spoken here, and all those held in the silence of our hearts in love and compassion.
would you all open up your, no, it's going to be on the screen, huh, Keith? All right. I'm old school, yes. Used to have to open up the text. All right. So I want you all to join me in these pastoral reflection words. I'll start us off. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprised, its hopes and achievements. For our human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, for high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, for all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom, for human liberty and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
This is the last Sunday of our Congregational Pledge Drive, and we have a sermon on inflation and corporate behavior. Oh boy.
Ouch.
So the question I am answering today is, why do I love UUCLV and why do I donate and pledge? This is my story. I moved to Las Vegas 27 years ago with no connections but for my 7-year-old son, who I shared with his dad and stepmom. I was newly and thoroughly disenchanted with Catholicism. I had also recently retired from the Air Force, and I was ready to involve myself pretty much full-time in environmental issues and living lightly and deeply on the face of the earth. But I needed to be connected. I needed to belong. I wasn't a tourist here. With the grace of some grand serendipity, I fell into the lap of UUism. I was inspired by the simplicity and the profundity of our 7 principles, and more recently, I thoroughly embraced the 8th principle. The people that I met at the congregation, meeting down at the Masonic Temple under the freeway at that time, were amazingly willing to share themselves with me and to explore ideas and issues and become involved in the world around them, especially in the environmental issues that I soon embroiled myself in. Over the 27 years that I've been here, we've had Chalice circles for, I think, 25 years of those years. And those conversations in Chalice circles still challenge me and surprise me and thrill me to learn so much about living life. Everything here urges me, pushes me to become bigger and better. I loved it when this congregation, after decades and decades of renting space, when this congregation bought this old building. What an opportunity for us to live lightly on the earth, to maximize the use of resources, to use things that are still useful. We scrubbed and cleaned. We put a new insulated roof on the building, the first time this building had insulation in it in its 50-year history. On top of the insulated roof, we put solar panels, and we became an early adopter, an early part of Nevada's clean energy economy. A few years ago, this congregation made a false start on an after-school program for the kids in this neighborhood. But our food pantry has been a huge success for us and for our neighbors. I am so proud of us that we don't have a typical UU building, we don't have a Frank Lloyd Wright building, and that we don't have a typical UU neighborhood. More personally, here in this room, these are the things that I was a part of over the years. We celebrated marriages of people who are dear to me. We've welcomed new members and new babies into our midst. We've marked the passing of those among us. We've celebrated Yule and Mabon and Christmas. I had my 50th birthday party in this room with a professional square dance caller, and this room was rocking. One year, this was a super special event. One year, during Black History Month, all the neighborhood churches had gathered together to have a musical celebration of Black history. And the church that was supposed to do that all of a sudden had a major roof issue, and we hosted that program here. Our little congregation's choir was a big part of the program that night. But this is what just blew me away. We had a surprise guest in this room, sitting about just in front of where Hillary is right now, in the very back. He was here on business, but he also had friends here in Las Vegas, and he came here to celebrate Black History Month with us. That was Senator John Lewis. That was a big deal. Yeah, did you know that? No. It was a big deal. So I donate and pledge, yes, to help cover expenses. But behind that, the reason I donate and pledge at the 6% level is so that this congregation grows and survives into the future. There are going to be more people who come to Las Vegas just like me without connections. And they're going to look for the third space that Mac talked about a couple of weeks ago here from this pulpit. Not only new people, but those of us here right now, we are going to still need to belong to a place and make us feel connected, to be cared about, and to care for each other. All of us will continue to need a place to explore, to live out our values, to live lightly and deeply on the face of the earth, to live lightly and deeply taking care of each other. That's my story. I was also asked to give a commercial break because, yes, this is the last Sunday of our pledge campaign. You can make pledges up through March 31st, that's Friday. You can pledge any time of the year, but if you do it by March 31st, our treasurer, Vernon, and our board will be able to put together a budget for the coming fiscal year. And that's pretty important for us to do. I guess we'll hear more about that later this morning in the service. You can go to the website, UUCLV.org. There's a big banner right on top that says pledge. Click on that, goes right to the pledge giving page. You put all your information in there right there. Thank you. We need you all. I need you all.
Another tough act to follow, let me tell you. We gather as a religious community to give each of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon of love and justice in the desert, and supports local organizations working to make our community a better place for everyone. The offering this month is shared with the minister's discretionary fund. The minister's discretionary fund is used to assist members and friends of the congregation and members of the larger community in helping to meet their basic living needs, such as shelter, food, utilities, medical, and other exigencies such as transportation and fees. Funds may be given as a loan or a gift, depending on the person's ability and circumstances. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and the ushers are already coming by to collect any donation that you would like to give to us today with our thanks and gratitude. And now please join me with gratitude for the abundance in our own lives. We give for the life of this congregation and for the benefit of the larger community. In the interest of full disclosure, not all of you have had a chance to talk with me, and I have not a chance to talk with you. My name is Geoff Pool. I spent 15 years in the investment banking industry. I have worked as an accountant in broker-dealer operations, compliance, and tax reporting. I hold a master's degree in international finance from Northeastern University. And I left because I was too moral to work in the investment banking industry after 15 years. But today is not about me. 112 years ago, almost to the day, 146 people died in New York City. Of those, 123 were women and girls. These women and men, but mostly women, generationally, worked as independent contractors, making a fashionable garment, a lady's blouse, remembered as shirtwaists. They worked standing up 9 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and 7 hours on Saturday. They were paid by piece, production only. They had no rights, no safety, and no unlocked open exits during the working days. On March 11th, 1911, towards the end of the day, a fire had broken out amongst the scraps. And I'll add, although fire regulations at the time did not allow for smoking on the production floor, they were given as much credence as making sure your depositor's money, for example, was in a safe investment. It quickly spread throughout the building. The owners, who were there present with their families and their children, who also possessed their own private elevator, quickly escaped the building. However, everyone else was not so fortunate. The New York Fire Department, bless them, courageously fought to extinguish that fire, but their hoses would only reach to the 7th floor. In a forlorn attempt at survival, many people jumped from the building, only to die when they hit the ground, and the rest would succumb to asphyxiation, burns, or both. In the aftermath, no one was punished. The owners were acquitted for manslaughter, but were successfully sued in civil court. It is not often remembered that the corporate owners who had insurance received $400 a person for loss of what I would categorize business interruption. But the amount paid out to the victims and their families was $75, a cost basis calculation for those who are interested of about 16%. Capitalism survived that day, but many mothers and daughters were left to be identified, stacked side by side in an open cask for their families to come through and figure out which one of these belongs to you. In 1936, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was up for re-election. He would come in on the heels of the Great Deal of the New Deal, and the brand new technology, which we call radio today, set up a series of public information gatherings or town halls to debate subjects so that the American public could hear the benefits. Representatives and proponents of the American industrial free capitalist market system would tell us then and now that it is the greatest catalyst of wealth creation for the largest amount of people in the history of man. Over and over again, the free market rewards effort and punishes sloth. I cannot help but wonder, 120 years and 1 day later, if the people of Nebraska really want their children to suffer the same fate as the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory disaster. After all, they would say a 16-year-old can gain a quality of life and money in their pocket by cleaning floors of a slaughterhouse dripped in any imaginable type of debris you might find in a slaughterhouse, instead of gaining an education and a dream. I think that the women of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory would have a counterpoint to that argument. Unfortunately, the dead cannot speak.
Or maybe the dead do speak. How many of us hear our ancestors calling us? How many of us know the family narrative of the dispossessed, the broken, the poor who made it out of the deep south or back east or from a foreign nation, right? How many of us have known the story of those who have suffered under our so-called beautiful American experiment? All right. This service is in honor of Joyce Patterson Rogers. We didn't lift her up during our time of recognition, but Joyce is a wonderful member of the congregation who had a birthday this past week and found herself not feeling so well on her birthday. So we didn't get to celebrate with her. But she purchased this sermon. Last fall, I guess it was last fall, we had the service auction. And this is a sermon she wanted. And so I'm going to disappoint her. Joyce gave me a file with articles and articles about corporate greed. Joyce and I have spoken for months on end about how I'm going to hit them hard. Am I hitting you all hard? Oh, and Jane, you're right. The juxtaposition of pledging and corporate issues, well, this is a not-for-profit, though. Religious groups in the country have a natural not-for-profit status. Nobody's putting any money in their pockets from this place except me, maybe the administrator who's part-time, right? There's not a lot of money being passed on to people here, but there's a lot of love. There's a lot of caring. There's a lot of compassion. Let me read to you some of what I wrote, and I always write too much, so we'll pare this down. And what I think I've said to you before, I'd like to do a series on the economic realities of the American people, and maybe we can unpack the articles one by one by one. There's also an affiliate organization of the Unitarian Universalist Association called the Unitarian Universalist for Just Economic Community. And I'd like to encourage us maybe to form a chapter here, but we'll say more about that somewhere along the way. So here's what I wrote. Some 3 months ago or so, before I was fully aware of how bad this economic situation of ours is, before I lost 30, 40, or is it $50,000 of my retirement account, before my kids who are grown-ups, who aren't grown-ups because they're still living in my house and depending on my wife and I to support them, needed even more money because the cost of heating our home back in New York doubled. I think it actually may have tripled in the past few years. everything's tough right now. The irony of this particular service, given the fact that we are asking you all to give in the midst of an economic downturn, so to speak, there's a great irony there. The peril inherent in choosing to speak about the economic crisis today is that really and truly, I don't have enough knowledge to fully get at all of the issues at play. I am not a capitalist. I am a card-carrying socialist. I did not say I was a communist. And I don't believe, from my understanding of political science, that there's ever been a communist nation on the face of this earth. What Karl Marx talked about has never come to fruition anywhere, and calling Cuba or the former Soviet Union or China that is wrong. Misinformation. Spurred forward by the capitalist, who want you to work yourselves to death, not collect on your retirements. Let's be real about this, folks. The people in France were working to 62 years of age, but when the president or prime minister dares say you should work till 64, what has France done? Ooh, they acting up. Good trouble. But here we are being pushed to 70 and beyond to work. Every time I go to the supermarket, I've got someone older than me packing my bag. Those were jobs kids used to have. But seniors are desperate and need those jobs now. We've been given the shaft. I'm sorry if that offends anybody. Maybe you should have gotten some, lubrication, but it didn't happen. The American worker has been done in, and only a small percentage of the American worker has really done well over these past years. When I started teaching school in 1985, I believe it was, I was put into tier 1 of the teacher's retirement plan. Had I stayed in that, I could have retired at 55 with a fat pension. But the teachers who go in now have no such thing. In New York City, it's down to tier 5, I believe, because the economics of the situation have changed time and time again, and the workers have suffered. When I was working at Harlem Hospital, an organization came to try to organize the white-collar workers of the hospital to form a union. I opened the chapel of the hospital for a full month. Less than 20 people of 2,000 ever came to hear the presentations given daily about unionizing the white-collar workers. They all were afraid of losing their jobs. Unionization, fair wages, living wages are a joke in this nation. I started working as a 14-year-old boy. The minimum wage in New York State at that time was $1.69 an hour. The minimum wage in New York State is below a living wage now. They're talking about moving it to $15 an hour in some future date. To live in New York City, to live in Los Angeles, to live in any of the large cities of this nation, you need to earn $22.50 an hour minimally to make it. What joke are they perpetrating upon us? Let's bring out the flag. Let's start another war. Let's act like somebody's doing in the nation. You know who's doing in the nation? The greedy capitalist. The greedy politicians who line their pockets with what those on top give them behind the scenes. I was a fan of Jesse Jackson and his Rainbow Coalition. I was an even bigger fan of Jesse Jackson when his son ran for Congress and won and espoused high ideals. I was terribly disappointed that he was taking Rolexes or whatever else vacations that the corporate types, the rich types were giving him. I guess the money he was making as a congressman just wasn't enough. My cousin lost her home in Mississippi this day, or yesterday. A storm went through Mississippi. She's a school teacher with a master's degree earning $42,000 a year. She's been teaching for 25 years or more. This is how we treat Americans. As we dare to stand before the United Nations or fight battles around the globe talking about what's being done to other people. The privatizing of the penal system. In the nation's capital, there's a corporately held prison. You go to Washington, D.C., you go see it, take pictures, post it everywhere. The shame upon this nation. 2 million people warehoused so that corporations can make money. And in the southern states, maybe others, I know in the South, they rent those workers out like slaves. The largest prison in the nation is Angola. It was the largest plantation in the nation. It's between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Once the largest plantation, now the largest prison in the nation. We have no shame. Now, let's put on that nicey nice thing, right? Let's try to say that what the former secretary said wasn't real, right? Let's imagine that we're forming cooperatives and pooling our resources. Let's imagine we create a credit union that could benefit the people of this community. Let's imagine we're pooling our resources and building our own retirement villages. Let's imagine that we have the capacity to change this world for the better, not just give lip service to it. And I know I'm beating up the choir, but damn it, even the choir's got to step up and do more. Even the choir. If you cannot sing like angels, sing the way you can sing. And that means you've got to do something for somebody. You may not be Jewish, you may not be Christian, but I'm here to tell you the Sermon on the Mount is the greatest sermon ever preached. And the one they call the Nazarene, Jesus preached it. And he said, clothe them, house them, care for them. Do this for the least of these. If everyone you know and if everything you're about isn't about that, I suggest you do that Michael Jackson thing. I'm looking at that soul in the mirror. I'm asking you to change your ways. You got to do more. You got to be activated. You got to be compelled to do something. We've got too many homeless people here. We've got no rights for renters here. The Poor People's Campaign must come to Nevada. Go online. Ask Reverend Barber to bring the Poor People's Movement here. And let's form a chapter of Unitarian Universalists for just economic community and find a way to make a difference for somebody right here. You feel me? Now, choir, I'm not mad at you. Who sang that? Some rapper did a song. Is that Tupac? No, was that Ice Cube? I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. But I need you to talk to your relatives and neighbors who I probably am mad at. You understand? If people of good conscience don't call the other folks on the carpet, who will? Who will? Racism, ableism, all the linked oppressions. At the end of the day, it's all economic. At the end of the day, it's about the money. Who's got it? I could have honorary white status if I only had more money in my bank. Huh? Sister, I didn't know if you knew I'm a brother. Ungawa. Huh? Harlem power. Right? It's about us. Muhammad Ali, I tell you this all the time. Columbia University used to be King's College. I believe it's the second or third oldest college in the nation. The students invited Muhammad to come. It's Ramadan, so I had to bring up Muhammad. And Ali, with the Parkinson, struggled up to that podium. And he looked out on those thousands of students, because Columbia graduates a big class. And he said, me? And he said, we. And the students threw their caps into the air. Ali got about 25,000 for me, we. I love it. Brevity is a good thing. Especially for those of us that like to yak, huh? Let's find a way, community. Let's do it together. Let's put Unitarian Universalism on the map in this locality so that they'll know that this denomination, this faith community, these people have a heart. Amen? That was a long version. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce. And thank you to all of you. I want to just make a small plug-in on 2 points that the Reverend raised, and then I'll go on to our next section. I know our time is a little over, so I appreciate your patience. In celebration of trying to get our community to be more with us here in this space, in this room, in this neighborhood, the second largest county section in Nevada that has a hunger crisis. We will be starting to host on the third Sunday of each month, starting in April, a come and visit us and have breakfast. We're going to do this for 3 months and we're going to see what happens. So spread the word. If you're interested in participating, come and see me. I would love to talk to you because I will be coordinating it. And then finally, I'm going to put a plug in. I've been inspired by today's words. If there is interest, and again, you can come and see me and also let Rev know and let our board know and let Irma know. If there's an interest in understanding the economic systems and the history and so forth, I would be willing to commit time to teach all of that. And we could do that on a Wednesday if that's something that we can coordinate, but I don't want to do it unless we have an interest. So please reach out and let us know, because I think that there's a lot of interest in this subject, especially given the last most recent banking crisis. I can't tell you how many I've lived through. It's become tiresome. Anyway, call to action today. All right, so for our call to action, there are 3 items on today's call to action. First, you can support by voice and contacting our legislature about 2 bills that are passing through our part-time legislature. Joanne Lavoie is out, and she has a table in the social hall, and we'll show you how to do that.
Make your hand, Joanne. Let them see that beautiful hand.
There you go, Joanne.
Joanne Leove.
The first bill is AB 319. It appropriates $100 million for 2 years from the state general fund for universal free lunch for all Nevada students. The other bill is SB 341. It appropriates $2 million over 2 years from the state general fund to the food pantry of Northern Nevada, and $2 million over the 2 years to 3 Square, our food pantry here in Southern Nevada. Second, Reverend Gordon would appreciate donations of toiletries such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, and so on for the food pantry box. From time to time, people do visit the church in need of these things. You can place the donated items on the food pantry table on the social hall or give them to Irma or Reverend Gordon. And third, and very important as well, I want to bring to your attention an upcoming LGBTQIA+, say that backwards 3 times, date. March 31st is Transgender Day of Visibility. It is a day to celebrate the lives and contributions of transgender people while drawing attention to the poverty, discrimination, and violence this community faces. And it is great. And now, Reverend Gordon for our benediction.
Thank you, Geoff. Hear these words that come to us from Laura Lynn Bellamy. If you want to follow along, it's number 692 in the gray hymnal. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another, that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace after all the other things after the service. Go in peace when you leave here.
Amen. And now please join with me. We release that which was called with love and gratitude. We extinguish the flame, and not our commitment to being a beacon in the desert. This burns brightly until we gather again. All right. And I just want to say a couple of words, real quick words today. Thank you for Keith for managing the back AV. I'm usually back there, but he does such a great, inspiring job. What can I say? And then Joanne Leovi, I'll get it right, Joanne, I promise, for bringing the flowers in. And thank you all for coming. And thank you, Irma, for being a great person in our church secretary or administrator role. And we have a special plug-in today from our distinguished guest, Hillary.
A couple of things. One, any newcomers here, you are welcome to a free lunch. And Chenier, can you raise your hand, Chenier? Will be hosting at noon a Chalice circle for newcomers. Number two, I'd like to introduce Donna Mead and Kim Susanna Monette. Would you stand up, please? There's a couple of people here who have, don't know that you are the co-chairs for the celebration we're having on April 8th, the party, the pledge party. And for example, these two at the front row have indicated their interest to help. And some of the others who have not yet met you should come forward and offer their help.
Thank you, Hillary, for that. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Kim.
Wow, talk about a really tough, hard act to follow.
Uh-oh, Bobby's got
one more.
Yeah.
Bobby, there's more, but wait.
Yeah, I'd like to invite anyone that hasn't greeted, and those that do greet. We need you. But it's a lot of fun, and you get to know people and become a part of this society. And one thing, I carry these cards, these business cards to our church. I carry a few with me, and just a couple weeks ago, I ended up giving one to a person that lives right around here. It's a good idea to, to have these and talk up the church. We need more members. Thank you.
Bobby. All right. Can we release these folks? Let them get a coffee. All right.
So that is now the end of today's service. Go in peace. Please, all of you, thank you for coming. Hear our words, put them to action. And we will see you next week for Transgender Day of Visibility with Reverend Gordon.